Now, the jobs picture here at home is shaping up nicely, with the number of online ads increasing in August. The Advantage Professional Index rose 2.8% last month, thanks to strong hiring trends in the mining and legal sectors. The gains in the legal sector in particular are a good indication of overall business confidence. Looking at the report from a state-by-state basis, WA is still the nation's jobs powerhouse, with a near 50% rise in jobs ads over the past year. Victorian ads have grown almost 30%, and coming in a close third was New South Wales. Right, for more, we're joined by Robert Olivier from Advantage Professional. Robert, always good to talk. Thanks for coming in. We got a little bit of a snapshot there of what the numbers show, but I suppose in an overall bigger picture sense, pretty good state of affairs at the moment in the Australian labour market?
I certainly think it's an encouraging figure this month. We went down last month slightly, and I put that down to a little bit of election jitters. So we seem to have gone through that. The election, while obviously still uncertain, in the last week of August, the number of ads rose 2,000. So though there was a hung parliament, there was still quite a clear decision by employers to move on. So I think that's an encouraging sign. Certainly we're heading in the right direction.
Do you think the reason that I suppose employers have been able to look beyond the political uncertainty is because of the state of the economy? Are they buoyed by the fact that, you know, we just saw those GDP figures? It's a pretty good state of affairs at the moment.
I think that's a good point, because I think the GDP figures actually going to encourage everyone that it's better than it really is. Because, well, not that it is. That we've had up to now, we don't believe our own good fortune. So we're a bit hesitant because we're seeing things overseas, and they're worried that this is going to affect us. But now this is more and more reinforcement that things are going well here. If you look at the situation with consumer confidence is up, that'll lead through to business confidence. Then employers say, well, now I feel confident to hire. And so I think that the next 3 months is always going to be encouraging.
Do you think, though, that I suppose the longer the uncertainty politically plays out, that, you know, it can't help but maybe have a little bit of an impact in terms of, you know, hiring and the labour market and so forth, even if we're not seeing it right at the moment?
Oh, look, yes, if there was continued uncertainty, then people might start to worry. I don't think there's an enormous or profound difference in policy other than the NBN to make employers say, well, if it goes one where it goes another, it will affect my hiring decisions. One of the things we did see this month is that the number of temporary contract ads are up 5.2%, but permanent only 2.2%. So maybe they are hedging their bets, as you suggest.
Look, and we just, as we heard in the introduction, it's still WA by far just going from strength to strength. Are we seeing big discrepancies, you know, in terms of when you break it down statewide?
Well, yeah, it's been a continued trend in that respect. So this month wasn't any particularly different in that Western Australia did particularly well. New South Wales and Victoria going quite strongly. The interesting one this month was Queensland, that had been up to now performing fairly poorly despite its resources. And this month it's done particularly well. It's up, and that, I think I put that down to primarily tourism and hospitality jobs are up about 7%. So I think there's going to be some good inbound tourism expectations this year, so that area is beginning to grow again.
Do you think we have to worry at all about, because obviously we get those ABS job numbers out on Thursday, do we need to worry about pressure in the labour market at all at the moment? People concerned obviously about future wage inflation and so forth, and just looking at the numbers, it just shows, again, strength and strength and strength.
Well, it's a funny one, because you would expect that naturally to occur, but up to now there's been reasonable restraint. I think it's still on less than 4%. You know, it's in line with sort of Treasury expectations, so it's not pushing inflation up. And that would obviously be the concern. If they really start pushing on inflation, then it's going to have other consequences. So we have to watch interest rates there. But I think at the moment, they're still coming to terms with the fact we've been through a dreadful market. So there isn't also sort of people going crazy changing jobs. It's quite a careful and considered market. Same way in labour, in salary expectations, people aren't going crazy. They still want to catch up a little bit for what they missed out the last couple of years. But there's a reasonable balance. I think it's quite a healthy situation.
Are we likely to see a return, though, to pre-GFC times, where there was quite a high level of confidence in moving jobs and being able to, you know, if leave one place, you'd be happy to pick up something else because there was such a booming economy?
That may well happen, but it hasn't happened yet. I frankly, and many other recruiters, thought that would happen in January. Everyone had, you know, missed out on pay rises, missed out on promotions, and we were expecting everyone to bounce back. Now, there's an interesting one that many observers saw, which is that sort of Generation Y, which were the ones who were kept on jumping jobs.
Gypsies.
Yeah, well, for the first time, they actually realised that the world doesn't owe them a living, and they've been fairly restrained, and they've shown a bit more loyalty to their employer. They've seen friends lose their jobs, and they've been a bit more careful. So, but that doesn't take long to forget that. I'm sure that will move on fairly quickly and go, yeah, you can get a job, you can move on, and so that may well change, particularly towards the end of this year as the market does improve.
And I suppose industry sector-wise, in terms of where the strength is, a lot of it again just attached to the mining and resources like businesses? Yeah,
well, it's our clear leader. It's up 29.97% compared to 10.4 on a 6-monthly basis. So it is a clear leader, but there are plenty of other areas that are going strongly. I mean, legal's finally picked up. That was one of the laggards that hadn't happened, and legal accounting tends to respond to the market a little bit later, in my experience. So I think we've got it's a broad strength. There's really no areas that I've got concerns are going backwards in the near future anyway.
Why is legal an important one? Why is it one worth keeping an eye on?
Well, it does tend to indicate that there's transactions happening, and there's IPOs starting to happen, M&A talk. Now that's big breadwinners for them, and I think when they see that happening, they get more confident and they start hiring a bit more. So it's an indicator. It's one we've been waiting to see and hasn't really happened up to now. The accounting sector is really still fairly quiet. The big accounting firms are picking up staff, but not accountants. So there's general. I think it's a general feeling of confidence, and I think that just simply the figures last week on the GDP and consumer confidence will also help plenty of other areas in the economy feel, well, now it's time we started to hire again.
What about, are they feeling any sort of shortages at all in terms of, we hear quite often about skill shortage and so forth, and, and companies trying to find the right people and an amount of people. Is that an issue at all at the moment?
It's a growing issue. I think the skill shortage expression is a bit overplayed because we're still well below the demand levels we saw 3 years ago, but it's starting to hurt particular sectors. And I think also when people aren't coming to the market as one might have expected, then you'll cry that, well, there's a shortage, whereas it's simply people aren't moving. People will start to move again, but the skills, we return to the demographic issue that we had 3 years ago, which is an ageing population. Maybe some of those people aren't going to retire because their superannuation isn't as good as it was. So I think we're yet to see that, but certainly if you ask particular sectors, mining, IT, engineering, healthcare, I mean, everyone's got areas of difficulty. And I tell you, one really interesting thing I saw last week is that although there's this terribly depressing news in the US about the job numbers, they actually there's still employers going out there hiring. The issue is that the people are not in the professions where they need them. So it's the car builders, the engineer, the steel makers, etc., where the old industries there that are dying, but where they need people. So it's not as if the US economy is completely dead. It's just there's heavy unemployment where people can't be re-employed.
All right, Robert, look, always good to get you in and look over these numbers. Do appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.